So you bought some new paint. What do you do next? Would you like to know 3 different steps that experienced artists, at least the ones that I know, do every time they get their hands on new supplies? Make sure to watch this video till the end, because I think these steps will really change the way you unbox your new materials. Hi, I'm Layla, professional artist. Welcome to my art studio. Okay, so let's have a look at these 3 must-do things. It's very, very beneficial to do anytime you come across a new paint that you haven't used before. And the reason is that paints use different pigment mixes, or the pigment treatment by specific brands can result in a slightly different shade. So make sure to test those out every time you get your hands on something new. Now, to show you those 3 important steps, I will be using this brand new set of paint that I got from Paul Rubens. It is a Chinese brand, and if you are interested in this specific brand or in this set, I will leave the links under the video. Okay, so far there is nothing new. You usually just unpackage your paint and have a look at what you see inside. Every brand would package their colors differently. You might be getting something in tubes, you might be getting something like this. Sometimes these little sachets are individually packed, so you might need to unwrap each one, and there will always be some information provided on the packaging. Like here, for example, this brand is using a sticky paper that protects the paint, which is quite a good idea actually. And you have this information. You can see the actual name of the pigment, little stars which usually apply to color fastness, so how fast the paint fades, and so on. And then here little squares. I'm assuming, just like in other brands, here these little squares would refer to how opaque or transparent the paint is. So these filled in little squares obviously mean that the paint has a very strong coverage, and the light ones mean that the paint is quite transparent. Interestingly, I don't see any half filled, which you'd normally see as well when the paint is somewhat in the middle. It's always interesting what brands say about their paint, and it doesn't always correspond with your feelings about it. That's why it's really important to test it out. Now, let's see how most beginners test out their paint. And you probably have done the same thing. You take a piece of paper, you apply a little bit of water on your paint, and you start to do little swatches like this and like that, to see if this is something that you like, if this is something that you were expecting. And this is all great. It is important to play with your paint before you start painting with it. So if you are doing this, you are not doing anything wrong, but there are some steps that I'm sure are missing. Okay, so here is the first step that you're probably not doing, and I will tell you exactly why you should be doing this. So I have this special little separate sketch pad, watercolor paper. In this book, I keep little swatches of every single watercolor paint that I have ever used or had a chance to use, or even if my friends have a really interesting color that I don't have in my set, I would ask them if I can make a little swatch. Let me tell you why you should be doing this. Sometimes when you have your paint and you love working with it, you might have 6 colors, 12 colors, 18 colors, and so on. At some stage, you might decide to add more colors, or vice versa, you might decide that I'm just not going to repurchase one of those again. This is why you need to make sure that you keep something like this going. Now, I will show you what it is that I do have in this book. So as you can see, each little swatch has a very dense color, and it has a wash right next to it, just to show how well this color transfers through. And I will show you the technique that I use to create this, because it will say a lot about the color that you're using. And you can see how different all of these variations are. Some run very easily, and some pretty much cover the whole watery area, or how it spreads into clean water. All this writing, right? What is this? This is pretty much all of the abbreviated attributes of the paint. So for example, here I've got DS for Daniel Smith. I have the name of the color, Hansa Yellow Deep. I have a pigment as well. Now, if you want to know why pigments are so important, please go over to my Patreon page. I've got color theory videos there, and I've got videos that explain about pigments in more depth. Also, I have light fastness rating, so this is excellent. Different brands might have a different way of showing it. Usually they do it through stars. I also put a number which corresponds to the level of pigment that is in the paint, and usually means the price point as well. And I also put things like how pigmented it is and how transparent it is, and so on. So this way I have all of these colors that I've ever tried. Some of these are now on the palette that I use. You can see here, these are the swatches of my palette here. And some of the colors that I have, but I don't use, like for example, this one here, I don't have that on my palette. I just feel that it's too similar. It's sort of in between this one and this one. So I kind of don't bother having that. This is why you want to have them all, because this way you can see them all side by side. Okay, or same with this color here as well, Perylene Violet. I don't have it on my palette, but I do have it in tube. I think it was like a gift or something like this. And next time when I'm setting up a new palette, I can just open this up and say I want this, and so on. So I keep all of these swatches separate. They're all mixed brands, and then you'll be able to see. So for example, this raw amber violet, I don't even have this paint at all, but I have a friend who had this paint, and I thought this is an interesting color. So I thought I'd do a little swatch. Maybe I would want to purchase it in the future. But you can see how this is very similar to this. So then I can compare the two and decide which one do I like more, the more sort of a more intense purple or more browny purple, if I ever do decide to purchase them or not. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have a new setup in this video. It's all thanks to this cool new gadget that I got. I could afford it with the help of my wonderful, wonderful patrons who are supporting this channel already. Thanks, guys. Not only are you helping me create better videos, but you're also helping all the other viewers here on YouTube that can benefit from all of the upgrades that I can create thanks to your support. It is really appreciated. I'm sure other people here on YouTube feel it too. But either way, make sure to go and check it out. There are so many fun things that we do there. Not only all the extra videos and tutorials and so many other things, but also we do fun games and monthly giveaways with prizes that are posted out directly to your mailbox. Make sure to go and check it out. I'm sure you will be able to find something for yourself depending on your budget or your requests, because support can start from just $2 a month. So make sure to go and check it out. Another reason why you want to keep all of this information is that little wrappers or like a sticky tape like that one over there, over time they can get lost or they can get too marked up, or you misplace them. So having something like this that is especially dedicated to your paint is absolutely wonderful, because then you can just carry on adding new colors as you come across them. Okay, so all of these colors here have the same color fastness. All these stars, they're all the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it here so I don't need to worry about writing it next to each of the colors. So this pigment here is PY175 and it is transparent. Okay, it doesn't have information about how staining these colors are or how granulating they are, but not all brands do. And also, I think this brand the price point is not very high, so they are not very expensive paints. So I think they are more of a high-level student grade watercolor paint. But they seem to be very nice so far, but I've only tested this color. So let's have a look again, and I will teach you how I do those tests. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you pre-apply a little bit of water on your paint. to soften it up a little bit, because sometimes, especially this is brand new pack, you might want to wait for it to soften up. Next, what I do is I add a very intense little color dot like that. It's quite intense. I mean, the paint should still be liquid, otherwise you're not using your proper watercolor techniques. And then I just apply a little ball of clean water here, so a little bit larger than that dot, so kind of like making a little snowman. And then you want to connect it, so you connect that little water pool with that intense color, and then you see how far the paint would run, if it runs at all. Some paint sits there, sometimes it's a very thin layer of paint that runs, and sometimes the whole paint just fills all of that pool. So then that gives you a really good sense of how well this paint travels through water, how quickly and how strongly. Now, this specific test is only relatable to watercolor paint. Everything else that I'm talking about, doing swatches and things like that, this would be applicable to absolutely different mediums: acrylics, gouache, tempera, anything you are purchasing, you should be doing those little tests. So now let's write down the name of this one. So this one's cadmium yellow pale. So anytime you see this word in the name description, it means that it's not the real pigment. For example, here we have cadmium yellow. Cadmium yellow is a very expensive pigment. Well, you know, comparatively, of course, but more expensive than some others, but it is also toxic. So a lot of brands decide not to use them in their range, and so they find pigments that can almost mimic cadmium colors. And this is why they put hue in the description. So anytime you see hue, it means it's a mimicking color. Now, there are two pigments in this one. Pigments really help you identify similar colors, but even the same pigment in different brands can have a bit of a different shade. This is why doing this is so important. Now, this color is called Purple Lake. Anytime you see a word lake next to a name of the color, you can assume that this is a man-made pigment. Think of this process as a meet and greet. You know, when you meet someone new, you sort of shake hands, kind of like when you're unboxing the product and having a look at all the colors and everything, the packaging itself as well. Next, you start to talk to them and you see what they're like. How much substance do they have to themselves? Are they a very deep person, or are they just very bright or quite shallow and you don't think you like it? So this is the kind of a thing that you are testing out here. And the great thing about this is that you get to keep all of this information. Like, for example, there have been situations when you unwrap your paint and you remember every color, and then those wrappers get lost and you didn't write things down, then you run out of this beautiful color. You want to repurchase it and you can't find it because you don't have the proper information. Many brands these days, especially professional brands, would have 20-25 different variations of red. So to find the one that you absolutely loved and run out of can be a really hard job if you don't have the information. This is why professional artists that I know always keep a little reminder to themselves like this. This can relate to any paint medium that you can get. For example, you can do the same thing with acrylics or gouache or anything else. As long as you keep this little book with you, you will always have all this information. Even if you decide to give away or throw away the set. Okay, so I have tested out all colors except for the white. Now, the white, testing it on white paper sort of usually is not very useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this white on the black paper. Now, all the paints that I have used have been super creamy, except for the white. The white seems to be quite hard. I don't know if it's just this set or if this is part of the paint formula. So I've been going at it with water for a bit now, just to pick up some paint. Which means that it will probably not be very good for creating those very dense, intense highlights, but perhaps for creating washes with a little bit of milkiness to them, if this is what you like in watercolor. Okay, so now it's all done. Most of them are dry. Some of the shades I found really beautiful, like for example this indigo. I absolutely love how it sort of separates a little bit and you get a bit of that green tint going through, then the blue and a little bit of that blackness. It's really, really beautiful. Now, the reason why this is happening is because it's got quite a few different pigments in there, and obviously these pigments separate a little bit, so it creates a really sort of almost a three-dimensional feel to the color. And remember what I said about testing the spreadability of paint with this exercise? You see how the reds did not really spread much at all. They did tint the water, but they did not sort of flow through. So if you're going for floral painting, for example, that way you want the paint to travel through, maybe try a different brand. If you want a little bit more control, if you don't want paints to run into each other too crazily, then these are definitely your friends. Okay. Now, another color that I really liked in this set is Van Dyke Brown, but I could be biased. I just love Van Dyke Brown pretty much in every set, so I just love how beautifully again changing it is. So from the warm to the cool shade, back again to the warmth. So this is a very beautiful three-dimensional color that I really like. And now I will have this always with me, no matter if I'm going to lose the set, if I'm going to keep it, if I'm going to give it away, if whatever happens to it, or this piece of paper here with the information, I will always have this with me. So anytime I would decide, oh, I really like this purple Lake PR88 color, I would be able to just have a look at this and then see if I can maybe pre-purchase that color separately in the tube, for example, or refill it if I run out. Okay, now part B of that introduction. If you have a set like this, it's very important to do this little thing. Now, this is not just for testing things out and seeing what you feel about them. This is something that will become super useful to have around when you are working. I don't know if you've watched my other videos, but you probably have seen me using my set that I usually use now. This is all mixed brands. I just choose the colors that I want to have on the palette and I just go for it. So you see, I have this little chart here. Again, I have all the information about each color, just like I did in that safekeeping thing. But the difference between that safekeeping thing, in the book, is that it will be away, it will be in its clean, pristine condition. But this is something that will be constantly used, will be changed. Anytime I would change the layout or I will change the colors that I'm using, I would have to redo it. So anytime I change anything here, I change everything here as well. The reason why is because it's easy for you to match colors. So for example, you want something blue but a bit darker than what you have and a bit lighter, so then you can just take this, put it next to your artwork and see, is this similar or is this not what you want? That's number one. Number two, it actually helps you to see the colors as well. So for example, this color here doesn't look too different from this color here, or this color here in this sort of a dry, very condensed sort of a paint squeezed out of the tube situation. So what do? You need to see what it will look like on paper. So here I have this color here, so Prussian green, so I know exactly what it is, and I keep this right next to myself when I'm painting. And this one here, I can tell that it's this color, and then I can see what it is, and so on and so on. Now this is something that will get splashed on, you can see here. This is something that is not going to be in a nice, clean, pristine condition by the time you've done few paintings, but this is just your little working horse chart that you would always have with you. Make sure that the size fits the actual palette size as well, so that way you can really keep everything together without any worries. And the best paper to use for this is to use the kind of paper that you usually like to paint on. So if you always use Arches paper of specific kind, like for example hot pressed, or if you use something else, try to stick to that kind of paper, your most common usable material. Okay, so here I'm gonna need to divide this into 3. Now you can do it in any way you want. You can just put a blank color, for example, especially if you're using something that's not transparent like watercolor, like if it's acrylics or if it's gouache or tempera, you can do whatever you'd like. I personally find it very helpful to start on one side with a very intense, deep color and then softly sort of graduate it to a very, very thin, very transparent color. So that gives me that variation that color on its own can create. Now on this chart, I'm not just letting the color run as much as it likes. I am physically pushing the paint away if it runs too much, because I do want to see that variety of shading from light to dark, from intense to very diluted. Now just a little point on some of the colors that now I'm using a different technique of application. Some of them feel a little bit, almost a little bit too soft, like almost it feels like there's not enough of the depth, but it could something to do with the binder that is used in the paint or the pigment themselves. But yes, definitely, I'm definitely still staying with the opinion that this is a very good quality beginner paint, very good quality student grade paint. Okay, so now I have this little chart. I'm just going to wait for this to dry and then I'm going to sign all of the colors. You don't have to sign the colors, but I still like to do that, as you probably have seen before, just because it makes things much easier and you can refer to these colors by name. Especially I find it useful when I'm filming the videos and I want to let you know what color I'm using. Okay, so now that I have completed this, I can actually stick that in the back, at the back probably, so that I don't lose it. And you can actually see how different the colors are, what manufacturer has described them to be as, compared to testing them out on paper. So this is what I mean. Always, always, always test for yourself. Test on the paper that you work with and make sure to keep a little thing like that. The one thing that I do want to point out after trying the colors out like this is that I sort of see that some colors are almost repeats of themselves. Like for example, with the yellows here, like these two yellows, the cadmium yellow pale hue and the cadmium yellow hue, they're very, very similar. I mean, look at that. So if I was buying these colors separately, rather than getting them in a set, I probably would not buy two of those. This one's quite bright, then maybe you might need one of those, and one of those, because it's quite an interesting color. You see, it's quite different compared to this one, just in the way that it travels and the way that the pigments separate as well. Okay, so now that we have finished with step 1, so step 1A and step 1B, let's move on to step 2. Now, step 2 is something that sometimes you see tutorials on how to do those things, but it is super important to do this anytime you get a new set. And it is making a multiplication chart for your paint. Okay, so here is my chart ready to be filled in. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill all those top spaces with color and spaces on the side with each of those colors. And then when we do and we bring across the two colors together, I create a mix. So for example, this color and this color would be mixed together and they will form a different color. So this chart will help you see how many different variations of colors that you can create with your set. So there's 24 colors in the set. I have only 12 little things, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore some of the doubles, so some of the colors that look very similar, as I pointed out, like the two yellows, like some of the reds here. For example, this red and this red, if you mix them together, you will get this red here. So I'm going to just ignore these colors. So I'm just going to go for the most interesting ones and see how they will affect each other. Okay, so here is the chart. So I've got intense colors up here and all the same colors but softer colors down here. Now you can always make a bigger chart if you have a full set of paint to fill all the colors in. So now let's have a look. If we cross yellow and yellow, it's the same color. There's no point to put anything here. We will leave that as is. But here, if we mix intense deep yellow with a lemon yellow hue, so here it'll be mainly this color, this deeper color, and less of the lemon yellow. So this is the color that we get. Here, on the other hand, it's the same combination, same two colors that we used here, but here we have this deeper yellow in a much more washed out way, and the lemon yellow in a much more intense way. So that way you get not only to see what two colors look like together, but you also get to see two variations with one color domineering in one combination and the other color domineering in the other combination. This is my favorite way to make the multiplication chart. Again, if you are interested, I do have a full video just focusing on this on my Patreon channel. Okay, so here I have finished with that light yellow, so the lemon yellow color. So here I have a combination of colors where yellow color is very, very soft, but all the other colors are super intense. And here I have the opposite situation where yellow is domineering and the other colors are very pale. So here you get these colors tinted with yellow, and here you get yellow sort of a little bit muddied up with these other colors. Okay, so now let's move on to the deep yellow. Okay, so here you can see that I have completed this and this row. So this was for the more intense yellow. So here it is more intense, here it is washed out. So this is what happens to all of these colors if this color comes into play a little bit, and here is what happens to this yellow color when all of these colors come in and just add a little bit of their own diversity in here. So this way you pretty much have so many variations that you can create. Now let's have a look at what this color, which is called cadmium pale red. And so you can see this thing is already coming in handy because I don't remember the colors, but I can look at this and I can call out the name. Okay, so let's have a look how this cadmium pale red hue will respond with the other colors. Make sure to wash your brush between the colors really well, because this is where things can get really tricky if you've got a lot of residue. Also, having a nice large pot, 2 or even 3 of clean water are very, very beneficial. Okay, so I have finished my main chart. As I said, I didn't, mix all the colors. I just chose the ones that I thought was standing out a little bit more. But here on the bottom there, I would like to make a different mix. This set has a white color. Not all watercolor sets have white because it is traditional, for example, in Chinese watercolor, but in European watercolor, white is not really widely used, and when it is used, it's usually gouache or acrylic, something with quite a bit of intensity for little highlights and things like that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, of course, leave this white because white won't show on white, but I'm going to apply a white paint, these squares, and then I'm going to tint them with the color. So here I've got yellow, so I'm going to mix white and yellow. Now, you would sort of think there is no difference if we just have a very transparent yellow or if we have white, but there is, and this is a very good exercise. I will show you what happens when we mix our paint with white. And of course, it's going to be quite a bit of white in here. So here we go, white paint, and then a little bit of that cadmium pale red. Yeah, the white is much thicker, the paint consistency, for those of you who are watching this video who want to find out more about this paint. The white is much sort of thicker in terms of much harder as a block of paint, not as creamy and gooey. Okay, so here we use the pink. Okay, now have a look. You see what I mean by a very different sort of, it's much milkier. And also, if you are using this color as a glaze when it's mixed with white, it will be much more opaque, which means it will not be as transparent as it would be on its own. Okay, so this is a great thing to do if you bought a new set or a few different colors, just to see how they respond to each other. But what happens if you got yourself just a single color as an addition? This is what I usually do, you know, I research, have a look, and I say, oh, okay, I really want this color. Or sometimes it's just, you know, on the spur of a moment, you go into the art shop and you're like, oh, this looks so pretty, and you buy it. And then you go, ooh, why did I buy it? I don't even have enough space for more colors. But anyway, I will show you what you can do if that happens. Okay, so here I have my little testers that I've done for some of the other paint. I won't be doing this for this paint here because, you know, I've already done this big chart, so I won't bother with doing these ones. But sometimes if you buy a separate color, like for example here, I got a separate color of core quinacridone gold. And I really wanted to see what it was like and how it would respond with other colors that I had in my palette. Again, I didn't mix it with everything. I just wanted to see some interesting combinations. So I wanted to try things out. So you see here, always write things down, always, because you might look at this and if you might think you remember it, but a year, 2, 3 years from the moment you've done this, you will not be able to remember any of this. So on the top here, I have this quinacridone gold shade everywhere. And on the bottom here, I have the other colors, and again, I wrote them down. So here I've got Daniel Smith Hansa Yellow Light, Daniel Smith Hansa Yellow Deep. Here I've got another core color, which is transparent Pyrrole Orange, Scarlet Red, Open Rosa, and so on. So on the bottom here, each one of these colors just clean on its own, okay? And then here I have a mix of colors, and so you get that gradient of, for example, just open rosa, and a little bit of quinacridone gold, kind of a mix in the middle where you've got, you know, equal amounts of both, and here we've got a little bit of open rosa and quite a bit of quinacridone gold. Now you can see how sometimes you might not even see how these colors can respond to each other. So sometimes some colors start to granulate when you put them together more than they do on their own, or vice versa. So here you can see cobalt turquoise and see what a beautiful, beautiful composition that it's actually created. These two colors look absolutely stunning. Now, I know some people like to do it a little bit differently. Some artists I've seen do it. This is a separate, say, quinacridone gold little patch, and this is the cobalt turquoise patch. Then they just add a little bit of this into this, and then they mix them almost like little gradient strokes like that. I personally like to do it like this because it shows, it's a bigger sort of area, and it shows more of a behavior of the paint as well. But again, this is me personally. The other things look much neater than this. But for me, it's sort of like, how would I say it? Not only do I see the transition from one color to the other and the variations, but I also see how sometimes they can merge together and the beauty of those colors combined. And sometimes colors can look very similar. See here, I've got Daniel Smith Prussian Blue, and here I've got Schmenker Ultramarine. And here they kind of look very similar. But once they mix up with this quinacridone gold, this color forms a reasonably bright, very natural looking green, whereas here it almost turns like brown almost. So if you kind of look at these two colors like that separately, you can see that this is brown and this is green. So that's why it's really good to do these variations. You see here with black, A Van Dyke Brown, a very smooth transition. With black, you get this beautiful granulation. So you get to see what these colors look like when they are together. This is what they would look like if you did this mix on your painting. So here is another one. This is the one with quinacridone magenta as well, all these colors combined. Here is the one with a transparent pyrrole orange. So this is transparent pyrrole orange on the top here, and these are all the different colors again. So look how beautiful this combination is. So this is Meadow Lake red, and then this is here with the open rosa or quinacridone purple. You know, these are really beautiful combinations, and sometimes it is quite good to even pull these out, look at the colors, and let color inspire you, you know, and what you want to do. So if, for example, I would go out now and I would get only one of those colors rather than the whole set, and I wanted to include that color in my palette here, I would probably have a little play with it in this way. So adding a little bit of you know, that the new color that I got, and then seeing how well or how much fun it will create when it is mixed with other colors. See here, these two colors look very different, the Prussian green and cerulean blue hue. See how much more bright and zingier this one is, but you can see how similar these mixes actually look. So as I said before, I will not be doing these this kind of swatching with a new paint that I've got, because it is more of a set. So that's why I've done that little chart, you know, the multiplication table. And if I was to get a separate color, then I would definitely do this kind of a mix just to see how it will behave with my other colors. If you are worried about it being like a waste of paint, because it does take quite a bit of paint and stuff like this, just think about how many more colors you just realized that you actually have within that set. For example, like here we've got burnt sienna, and so see, these are all the different colors you can mix with it. This is all within that set. So you've got really, really beautiful combinations. And here, for example, this is that lemon yellow. So here are all the variations you can get with that lemon yellow. And this is that white line. So you can see how different these colors look when they're mixed with white. And you see this is that purple lake color. You see how beautiful all the variations that you can get with that shade. Absolutely gorgeous. Okay. So I hope that number 2, a specific thing that you can do when you purchase a new paint, is quite clear. Now let's move on to step number 3. So mistake that a lot of beginners do is when they've got their paint and then they've tested it out just to check what the colors look like, then they take their piece of paper and they start painting, you know, this project that they've always wanted to do. Now the reason why you don't want to do this, even though you would feel that you have tried all the different things with this paint and you tried playing with it in this way and the other way, and now you know everything there is to know about it, going into a full-sized project at this stage for you is like, I don't know, those of you that hunt, like going hunting with a brand new gun, or going to an ice skating competition on brand new shoes, and so on. So, you know, you want to be able to kind of wear into this product, and you want this product to be able to kind of, I mean, I don't want to sound crazy, but almost talk to you, you know, because each paint, even if it's the same type of paint, like watercolor paint, different brands have different binders, and they seem to breathe and work and dry in a different way to each other. Even sometimes different shades within the same brand can give you a little bit of a different performance. So that's why you need to make sure that you are like through and through, you know everything there is to know about the product that you're working with. This is why step 3 is to create small little sketches. Now these sketches can be designed to be kind of like completed works of art, but you don't put very, very high hopes on it. So in terms of, okay, this is going to be an artwork I'm going to sell for thousands of dollars, okay? So you want to make sure that this palette that you got you absolutely sure about the effects, if you want to use salt with it, if you want to use granulating medium with it. So all of those things you need to test out. So this is why you want to create little artworks that are not finished large paintings, but aim for them to look at the end like the kind of artworks that you have planned and worked on for a while. Something like what you see I'm doing here. Okay, so this is just a landscape sketch. I'm not giving any sort of suggestions and things like that on how to paint this. I will have a full video with detailed explanations on how to do this on my Patreon. So those of you who are patrons, make sure to pop over there because it will be released soon if it's not already released. So so if you'd like to know more, please just go over there and check it out on Patreon rather than YouTube. Make sure that you do this exercise. I would also urge things like, if you are, for example, a landscape artist, if you specialize, in doing landscapes, for example, then make sure that you do landscapes as well with your new paint. If you do still life, for instance, or portraiture, make sure that you trial it out. So try to aim for almost like a finished work, but don't put any hopes into it. I know it sounds sad, but make sure that this is because it is a trial work. So make sure you do at least a couple, maybe even 3, of different styles, different things that you tend to do in your painting. Yeah, so I hope this is helpful. I hope that this step is quite clear to you. Make sure to use all the same things, like, your regular paper, your regular brushes, and so on, so that the only new thing here is your paint. If you just got 1 tube of paint, I don't know if you need to get into that much sort of process. Maybe just do a little play around with it. If all the other paints the same, you've used them before, you know them through and through. And if you've done that, that little testing thing that I showed you before, when you do those strips and mix it with other colors and you had a look at the results, perhaps just keep these around you. Maybe lay them out on the table as you work, or stick them onto the walls or something like this. By the way, I have a video on the best sticky materials to use if you're worried about ruining your walls, so you can watch that. I find having little swatches and things like that all over the studio very, very helpful. They can even be inspirational sometimes. So sometimes seeing specific color combination, you can actually create a whole new painting based on this color combination. Okay, so let's recap a little bit. So do you guys remember your first step when you purchase the paint is to do a recording for yourself? This recording will probably just have the information that the brand has provided. So the name of the brand, the color, the pigments that are in that color, and whatever else they tell you, light fastness, transparency, and so on. And remember, I have good videos on that as well. There's a video about granulation, and I'm going to film more videos. I want to film a video about transparency and how to create luminosity in watercolor as well. So that will be coming up in a few months. So make sure to subscribe for that. Also, remember to do a little chart like this. That is, of course, if you got a whole set rather than just, maybe a tube of paint or something. Remember, step 2 is to create a color multiplication chart. Again, if you want to know more, I have a really in-depth video on that on my Patreon. So those of you who are patrons already, make sure to rewatch that if this is something that interests you. And if you just get 1 single color, for example, or 2, you can always go for something like this, where you can premix your new color with the other colors that you already have on your palette, and to see how it behaves with them. And of course, step number 3 is doing a few sketches that are perhaps something within the style that you work in. Aim for them to be finished works, but do not plan for these to turn out well. Okay, so kind of a hope for the best, but prepare for the worst type of scenario, because this is new paint. You're just trying it out. You don't know what it's going to look like when it's dry. You don't know how it's going to behave with lots of water, and so on and so on. Now I'm going to say a few words about this specific paint, because some of you maybe have been watching this video to find out more about this set. And I can tell you this is a beautiful set, lots of very beautiful colors. Some of the cool things is that it's got a really lovely, you know, like Van Dyke brown. These are some of my favorites. Very interesting colors. You know, it's got that purple lake as well. The negative side is that there are some colors that are very similar, like you can see this color and this color here. They could have easily excluded them, especially considering that there's already this color and this color in here as well. These are half pens, so they're not full-sized pens. So I personally, this is my thing, I personally like working with full-sized pens. I just find it easier for the brush to sort of slide over the larger pen size. But if, for example, you are traveling and you want to take this with you, this is very, very nice because it also has a palette. Now, I absolutely loved using this palette. I do have a palette in the set that I usually use. So here it is. And you can see just how much more shallower these are. So if I just want to mix the colors, that works well. But if I want to achieve a specific consistency, I have to use a separate palette like this. I also like the texture of this palette better than the plastic. Again, if I've got nothing, I'll use this. If I've got something else, I'd use something else. And this is what I absolutely love about this palette. It's got a great mixing trays, and they're very deep, and things spread on them really well. It doesn't bead too much, and I didn't even do anything. Like sometimes when things bead, you have to wash them with soap, scrub them, you know, it sort of gives them a bit better surface to mix the paint on. This was just out of the packet because I wanted to see what it was like, and I love this. I absolutely love. Now, color wise, I would say the consistency of paint is not within the sort of a high-end artist grade paint that I'm used to using. Difference between student grade and artist grade is that there are more fillers in the pigments and stuff like this, and I could definitely tell because for this work here I've used a toothbrush to flick the paint, and you can see how strongly that staining was. And also on my skin, like I already washed my hands many times, but my skin is stained, which means that there are dyes added into the paint. I mean, it's not the end of the world. And as I said, for the price that it is priced as a student grade watercolor paint. It's a very good quality. If you are a total beginner, like you have been viewing my videos for ASMR purposes and now you're inspired to paint, I hope, fingers crossed, this would be a great addition. If you are already painting, I'm assuming you already have either this kind of quality paint or higher. So I don't know if you still want to get this, but as I said, there are certain things, like maybe if you want an extra palette or something like this can be quite handy to take with you just because of that palette thingy and stuff like this. I really like the case, very nice and sturdy. I think these little half pens, you can take them out as well. Have anything, but yeah, they look like they come out. There we go. So you can refill them, change them. So even if you buy something like this and then you use it all up, you can always go get new things, pop them in there. Or my personal preference is to get paint in tubes and then add as much as you want, because then you have more control over how much paint you want on there, and usually they end up cheaper. And once you have these little pen thingies, you don't really need to buy more. Okay, as far as markings of the brand, so as you guys remember, this was the sticker that was covering this. I quite like the packaging as well. It really saves unwrapping every single little thing, which is good, you know, saves you time, but still gives all the information here. So some of the explanation is done in, I think, Chinese symbols, which I cannot read, but there is some English as well. That's how I could tell the name of the colors. So you can figure it out. It's not that hard to figure out, you know, like this is, I don't understand what this is, but I look at this and I know these are pigments. So it's absolutely fine. But my sort of question was about the transparency. I think that's probably what it is. You know, these little squares. So white is always non-transparent. So judging for the fact that it is black little square, I would assume that it's opaque. And so all the other colors are transparent. So this color here, the cerulean blue, this meant to be opaque. I don't see this being more opaque than any other colors. This one's also supposed to be opaque. Again, I don't see it being more opaque. Like this color here is more opaque by the description of the brand versus this color. If anything, I'd probably say raw umber is more opaque than Van Dyke brown. This sort of doesn't really make sense to me. This is again why you want to hold on to what the brand tells you, but you also want to trial them out for yourself. Sometimes what happens with brands is that they might change their formula a little bit and then they never change the description. So maybe it used to be more opaque or, whatever. But do I like this paint? As a student grade, I love it. I think it's great. As an artist grade, I wouldn't say it's up there with the artist grade. But again, as I said, it's not fair to compare this because the price bracket is different. So artist grade, something like this can cost you a few $100s. Beginner colors that give you right colors when you mix them. You see this mixing chart here. Some super beginner colors don't work the way they should. You mix blue and red, and instead of purple you'd get brown. Those are horrible paints. I don't think even little kids should be using them because it's absolutely horrible. But this paint, it stayed true to its colors. The fact that they have pigments here, names for them, also says that they do put true pigments in. So perhaps not 100% pigment, perhaps they have some dyes as well, but they do have pigments. Again, it means that this paint is higher grade than your really basic student grade. Like it's definitely not kids paint, okay? It's definitely a student grade and a good student grade paint. Okay, so I hope, at least this is my opinion, of course different people like to work with different things and so on. It was quite easy to re-wet. The hardest color that I found was white, but even then you just drip a little bit of water and it goes really well. Everything else is very smooth and creamy. If you want to know anything else about this paint, you can always just ask me in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer. You will find more info in the description box under the video. I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said, don't forget to go and check out my Patreon page. Thanks to my wonderful, wonderful patrons. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe for more fun things to come.